Hi parents, my name is Coach Amber Rao Varany. I am one of the owners and co-founders of Wreck-It Volleyball and Fistball Club. Today I will be answering the question, should I sign up for rotations level 1 or level 2? The reason why we are putting this video out is because we've been getting a lot of questions from parents and receiving a lot of phone calls and emails asking how to know when it's the right time to either put the athlete in level 2 or level 1, especially if you are a new athlete. You may have some other experience from other programs, and we don't want to force you to take the level 1 program if you are a better fit for the level 2 program. So what I'm going to do is explain the difference between the two and give you guys a couple of scenarios that may help you understand what the goal is and the vision for each program is, so then you have a better idea. So when you self-police, you can put your athlete in the right program. So the first reason why we are separating the programs into level 1 and level 2 is because there are two main elements that the athletes are struggling with. And when we only have 6 weeks or 5 weeks, the rotations process, it takes a lot longer for a lot of athletes. And the first element is the movement portion, and then the second element is the actual positioning and job duties portion of rotations. And when we have athletes who are brand new to the rotations and we have athletes who have taken rotations before, the older athletes that have done it once or twice before start to become very impatient with the newer athletes, and we want to make sure that we're giving both groups of athletes a safer environment where they feel like they're getting the right amount of material and they're being challenged enough without over challenging or under challenging them. So in level 1, rotations level 1, the first thing is that the athletes must have at least 8 months of gameplay at the basic level. So when we say basic gameplay, we're talking about the typical rotating around in a circle, basically our intro to tournaments program or our beginner programs. The other thing is, if they don't have the 8 months, then they need to have a recommendation from one of the coaches. So typically speaking, you will either get it if you were in our rotations general course, or if you were in our intro to tournaments, you will get a recommendation from either myself or Coach Cliff, the other owner, and we will tell you if they're ready to be in a certain level. So once you get that recommendation, so you can reach out or we'll message you guys, then you would be able to enter this program even if you don't have the 8 months of experience. The next thing is that the athletes who are in this program do not need any exposure to rotations. We are giving that exposure to the movement patterns of it. So a big thing that we see is when athletes play at the intro to tournaments level, they're kind of just rotating in circles. And then when we start to teach rotations, one of the big elements is that an athlete will start on this side of the court, and then once the ball is in play, they need to get to the other side of the court. So we want to make sure that they have that exposure before we give them set positions in the level 2 program. And we want to make sure that that is something that is very easy for them when they move up. Another thing is that we also require them to have certain knowledge about the terminology. So there are terms such as rotational position, the 90-degree rule, defense standby, serve and serve receive positionings, that they need to hear and understand what they mean and where to go, because when they go into the level 2 program, that is going to be assumed that they already have heard these terms or understand the basics of these concepts. So we don't want to slow that program down to reteach it, mainly because we already have a program that is designated to learning these topics. Lastly, if you have an athlete who is on a 6th, 7th, or 8th grade team where they are doing rotations, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be moving into the level 2 program immediately. One of the main things that may be different between a 6th, 7th, and some 8th grade programs is that the setter on middle school teams generally is in the front row. For some advanced programs, the setter is coming from the back row. But if you are on a team where your setter is generally in the front, closer to the net, then we do recommend that you're still learning in the level 1 program. And the reason for that is because we are teaching having a setter coming from the back row, and that's a pretty big element that if you have done rotations but you don't know that skill, then it makes it a lot harder for us to teach in level 2. So if you are on a team that does rotations but it doesn't have a setter in the back row, it's only a front row setter, then we recommend having you in the level 1 program. So rotations level 2, the first thing is that the athletes should have about a year of basic gameplay experience. The next thing is that they should have some exposure to rotations. For example, they may be on a team, but they may not be getting as much play time, so they have seen a lot of the elements of rotations and they see that their teammates are doing it, but maybe they're not getting as much play time and maybe they don't fully understand it. But if a coach says, go to your rotational position, they have a general idea of what that means and they're not just standing there hoping that the coach will literally pick them up and put them to that position. The next thing is, generally speaking, the athletes that are in this program are either 8th grade freshman players or even some of the JV players that may not get as much play time. So if you're at the older age, generally speaking, this would be a player who's a serving specialist, only plays front row or back row, or they just don't get as much play time as everyone else on their team. And a lot of the time at the high school level, if they don't understand the rotations, they're not going to get as much play time. So if you have an athlete who is either on the freshman team or JV, but they're not getting like a good amount of play time, this may be the reason why. And it's good for them to take that series and really get the rotations down before they move into the high school program. Lastly, we will have a video talking about the difference between the high school tournaments program and rotations 2, but a big thing that we want to talk about in both videos is that when we have the athletes go into the high school tournament program, we require all athletes to have an understanding of at least 2 positions, or at least the openness to try the position and be able to pick it up very quickly. So in most cases, if we have athletes in the rotations or rotations 2 program, we require them to take it twice, so then we can reassign them into another position. And we take notes of what position they're playing in the previous sessions. So if you start the rotations 2 program and we give you the position of setter, then the next time that you do the positions or the rotations 2 program, then you will either learn middle or outside hitter. And the reason for this is because when you go into the high school tournament program, we don't do tryouts. And a big thing to remember is that we only have a certain amount of spots per position. So if one team has the spots for only 3 outsides and we have 6 players who only play outside, then obviously not all of them are going to play in the tournament as an outside. So if we switch them to middle or setter or right side or libero, we need them to understand the rotations of it before they get into the high school tournament program. Because if we have too many athletes who don't know the position that we're switching them to, then it makes the level drop in the high school tournament program, and it starts to make that program into a rotations class, which we already have 2 classes designated for that. So we also want you to understand that some of the athletes who are in this program, in the high school tournaments program, they may not be able to afford club, or they're using this as a way to contact college coaches because maybe they are multi-sport athletes or whatever everyone's case is. We want to make sure that the gameplay level of every high school tournaments program is at a good level where our athletes are still getting a chance to make teams or go to college if that's what their dream is, or whatever the case is. So we need you guys to really self-police and understand that just because they were on a high school team, that does not necessarily mean that they're ready for the high school tournament program. So if they only know one position, or they don't get a lot of play time, or they were on the freshman team, we highly recommend that they do at least the rotations 2 program at least 2 times, because they need to learn the positions. And if you are not 100% sure, it's better to lean towards the cautious side and have them do rotations part 1, because by week 3, the coaches will have a good idea of if they should take it again or if they're ready to move up. And realistically, you'll only have about 5 weeks in that program. So it really won't take a very long time for them to move out of the rotations 1 program if they're not placed in the right program. So I really hope that this helps you, and definitely watch some of our other videos to have a better understanding of what our vision is. And we really thank you guys for taking the time to watch these videos. If you are an existing customer and you have either my number or Coach Cliff's number or even Nicole's number, definitely reach out to us when you're trying to figure out what program to place your athlete in. If you have our phone number, most of us like to text, and we're trying to leave our phone and emails for the new customers coming in, mainly because text is a little bit quicker and you also can get a hold of us a lot faster that way. So once you're in a program, you'll get one of our numbers. Definitely save our phone numbers and utilize that resource because you'll get a hold of us a lot faster. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.